Hello and welcome to Mtoto News Insight for the last week of July. I am Anne Wambui. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed launched the disaster management policy at Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development on 26th July. The main objective is to ensure that the safety of learners and that of their teachers is well in school. Titus Kariuki has a report.
And I now declare the education sector policy on disaster management officially launched.
The main objective of the policy is to establish an inclusive institutional framework for disaster management in educational institutions in Kenya. The launch comes at a time when the education sector is confronted by the effects of heavy rains as well as spate of fires that have destroyed school infrastructures in various parts of the country. The development of this policy was the culmination of a consultative process between the Ministry of Education, development partners and other stakeholders. In the past, disasters and emergency have impacted the education sector in a number of ways: disruption of schools' calendar, damage to school structures, equipment, inaccessibility of schools due to destruction of roads and bridge, psychological trauma on children leading to poor concentration and focus in the classroom. The interventions outlined in the policy include, but are not limited to, the development and strengthening of capacity at all levels on disaster management in education sector. The policy provides framework, collaboration, coordination and management of emergency in the education sector. It further reinforces other policy and guidelines such as the Tehe Education Sector Policy on Peace Education 2014, the Education Sector Policy for Education for Sustainable Development, and the Health and Safety Standard guidelines for schools, which are currently being implemented in learning institutions. The policy will be disseminated for implementation in all the 47 counties under the overall leadership of Director General as the chairperson of the Ministry of Education Disaster Management Committee. Stakeholders will be keen to see the implementation of this policy.
Like you say, yes, it's true. I mean, the launch of a policy is a great start, but that's not the end of the work. We need to get into implementation and see the effects of it on the ground. So yes, they've been a lot, but I see this as a situation where it's a great first step. And as from and of course the primary custodian and the primary responsibility is borne by the Ministry of Education. But as Save the Children, we would be supporting the ministry in terms of ensuring that we are following through on the commitments. We'll be looking. My ask would be that we have an implementation plan, an implementation framework that is actually costed, and therefore we can start thinking about budgeting the framework. Because sometimes what happens is that you have a great policy, but if it's not budgeted for, it doesn't have an implementation plan and a budget, then it becomes impossible to implement. So the key ask would be for an implementation plan that is costed and then budgeted for, and then we can start seeing the implementation on this on the ground.
The biggest hurdle in developing our children's welfare in this country, be it education or health, is implementation of policies and report. We have so many great reports, but they are yet to be implemented. For the good of our children, it is our responsibility, for me and you, to make sure this policy is implemented to the latter. Let's ask the hard questions and hold people accountable. From Toto News, I'm Titus Kariuki.
Stakeholders involved in the development and policies and education of early childhood held their second national conference at Kenyatta University on 25th and 26th July. Connie Ndeleko has a report.
Early childhood development is the most important and crucial part of a child's growth, which carries the most sensitive part of their lives. At the ECD Network for Kenya Stakeholders Conference, they discussed on issues that impact children in terms of education, health, nutrition, and well-being of a child.
The latest science of ECD has provided a powerful evidence that support of children from the age of 1 to 6, especially in the first 2 or 3 years, is critical, not only for their accelerated brain development, but at the same time, it is also to turn and prepare them for their full potential in terms of lifelong learning, socio-economic engagement, and as well as other development. Children, therefore, are a critical human and intellectual resource in the long term and the transformation of our counties and country.
Early childhood development (ECD) refers to physical, cognitive, linguistic, and socio-emotional development of a child from the parental stage to the age of 8. Early years of life are a window of opportunity to lay a strong foundation for a child's future life.
There is no doubt that county government have, in the last 5 years, invested heavily in pre-primary education, childcare and healthcare facilities that impact on the lives and development of the young girls and boys in Kenya.
There is need to facilitate a total of 73.6 million for early childhood development on the 2017-2018 financial year. Thus, every child has the right to basic education.
The county government's investment in pre-primary education and childcare revolves around 5 pillars designed to improve safety, access, quality, affordable and sustainability of ECD, improved ECD infrastructure including rehabilitation and construction of ECD centers, expansion of integrated high-impact ECD programs that includes nutrition, health, care services, peace, and social well-being.
The county government is expected to cater for food, fuel, and sanitation in Kenya. Early childhood development focuses on integrated curriculum, vibrant learning environment, teaching professional development, and community engagement to support learning. Learners in public ECD centers receive 3,200 each per year, while those with special needs receive 3,300 per year for support over holistic child development.
We have witnessed evolution on the retention of children in school and commendable transition rates. However, we note with concern the higher enrollment of boys as compared to girls, an issue the county government is addressing. Further, we note the lower enrollment of children from nomadic, informal settlement, marginalized communities, and children with special needs.
There has been a massive increment on enrollment of children at ECD level in Kenya from 39,500 units in 2011 to over 41,300, with the highest increase in public-owned centers. The centers are child-friendly, designed to promote basic child rights to the greatest extent for child development.
The ECD gross enrollment rate increased from 71.6% in 2011 to 77.7% in 2017.
However, with all this process in progress, there were several responses and concerns from the quorum with the intention of making ECD move a step higher. All children deserve access to high-quality, stimulating development appropriate for early childhood care and education. Children should and must be allowed to live safe and stable lives free from abuse and violence. Thus, protecting children's rights is essential to ensure all rights are protected. Every child deserves the best start in life. However, it is the duty of everyone in the society to ensure they give the best to them. From Toto News, I'm Connie Deleko.
About 2,100 pupils are now left without a school to go to come third term after Kenya Urban Roads Authority, KURA, demolished learning institutions in Kibera said to be on road and rail reserves along the Ngong-Langata Link Road. Among the affected schools is Mashimoni Squatters Primary Schools, which has been running for the past 32 years and was hosting about 800 pupils this year. Only 4 classrooms were left standing to cater for the 57 pupils set to sit for their Kenya Certificate of Primary Education in November 2018. Orange Democratic Movement has given the KURA a week to compensate the affected Kibera residents or else face legal action, which led to the confirmation of a response by KURA Communication Officer John Cheboy, who said it was working on a compensation report with the details of the affected families and properties to be handed to the Treasury. Education Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohamed has said that all the KCPE and KCSE candidates whose studies have been disrupted by the demolitions of the 8 schools in Kibera will be transferred to other centers. And finally, on international news, for the first time, Somalia will prosecute a female genital mutilation case after the death of a 10-year-old girl. Dika Dahir died after suffering complications 2 days after her mother took her to a remote village in the country for the cut last week. The government has announced that it will pursue FGM persecution to send a message to those practicing mutilation and other countries that it is no longer acceptable. According to one of the doctors who tried to save her, she had suffered the most extreme form of FGM, type 4, which means that her whole female genitalia tract had been removed, the labia and clitoris totally cut off. Although there are no legislations outlawing the practice, the government will be setting its foot firm on ending female genital mutilation that puts an estimated 3 million girls at the risk of undergoing cut every year, according to World Health Organization. Now this week on 30th July, it will be the World Day Against Trafficking of Persons, and on 1st August will be the start of World Breastfeeding Week. Follow Mtoto News on all social media platforms to be on the loop of what goes on in these days to come. That is all for this week. We at Mtoto News wish you a wonderful and successful new month ahead. I am Anne Wambui.